get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay?
I'm sorry, I had to start off with that one today. My buddy Jeff Lutz posted that one about Donald and the ski mask and that we needed more of that. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. Let me see here real quick. Make sure my mic is working. Make sure that it looks like the stream is going. If chat could say hello, that would help a bunch. We'll start off with the economy. We have a lot to talk about. I want to go over charts too. And if you guys have any additional investment ideas, I love the idea of that. I'd like to talk about it. I'll probably actually, what I should do is go back here because I updated my portfolio as of Friday's close. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see how high it was. Needless to say, it is not that high right now. It's down a little bit. But I got to say this. This morning it started off much worse. Tesla was down like 3-4%. I don't even know. It's only down by 2. The Cypher, Iron, Clean Spark, AI, HPC plays / Bitcoin. They were down by like 7 or 8 or something. Now they're down like 4 to 5. So, and Enphase is actually up 2% and still in its breakout position. And then EOS Energy is only down 4. And yeah, there's just it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I honestly thought it would be worse this morning. It's not sitting that way. But, okay, so we're up over $500,000 from the last post. Somebody did point out in a week or 2 weeks ago, whenever I updated it last, that EOC was not in here, EOSE. And evidently I didn't check a box in the Excel template that I have this built into. So I have added that. Also, it looks like there was a discrepancy with Tesla. It was actually a little bit lower. It's only making up about 13% of my portfolio. And then, honestly, ARKG just exploded because I do have options on that one. So that's probably going to come down today. And then Cypher did really well last week. I mean, Iron, Cypher, all these things have been creeping higher and doing really well. So that's about it. I got to say this. I do think you can see all these 0% over here. I've been adding to things like LNG with VG and Next, just for future potential. They're down, I think, quite a bit off their highs right now. And then this last week, and then also again, I was adding RCAT, RedCat. That's a drone manufacturer for the defense side. It looks like it's actually close to a breakout. It's down 6% today, but it's looking pretty good. And then TE again. I'm just trying to get as much into the energy, AI. Drone, defense, robotics. I'm trying to be a little more balanced of a portfolio this year and with a lot less leverage. That is working out. I know Zeta is probably one of the only ones that was really dropping last week, honestly. TLT2, just because, again, that's a hedge. It's only 6% of the portfolio. I'm probably looking to add more of that, but not right away. But Zeta was the one that really dropped. I think that dropped, though. I still love that one. I know Tevis and Tanner, Future Invest, all these guys. They did a video with Wealthmatic about Zeta. I thought he did a pretty good job. He used a lot of jargon, which wasn't great, but he did a good job at kind of explaining the business model and how they use data aggregation in order to be able to advertise and help companies advertise and really help them from the funnel from the very beginning till the end. Customer retention to pulling in customers, and doing that in a way that kind of secures the individual's identity and makes it to where that's not getting broadcast to the entire world. But at the same time, it allows them to be able to just have a wealth of data about these individuals. And so if you're trying to do like targeted marketing, all that kind of stuff, it's really awesome. And I still love the financials on it. I mean, they could be gross profitable this quarter, and so still like this one. Don't like it though from the fact that they went up, I think, a lot in the short term because of their OpenAI partnership, and we're going to talk about OpenAI because that's not doing very good lately. But again, I do like the portfolio. I like being in genomics. I've got some of these calls go out to January 2028, so I got a decent amount of time for that to play out. And then Cypher, again, I think this AI HPC play where they've got dedicated energy sources is going to be really big this year. So Cypher is great. Tesla, obviously, no brainer. Iron, again, just like Cypher. Enphase, solar, power, converters, all that kind of stuff. And then just betting on the housing market coming back. We got Bitcoin treasuries and bond hedges and EOS energy, from the battery side, which I think is exciting too. And again, I just feel pretty good about the portfolio. I am definitely leaning into whatever pain we have today, because I believe strongly that we're in an expansion phase, and I want to capitalize off of that. On that note, Kobayashi letter. And good morning to everybody. Good morning, Ed the Great. Loss on crypto. Echo. Let's see who else we got here. Wildcat, Kirby. I might need to upgrade my prescription again, man. I just swear to God, I can't see that well. JT, all the rest. Appreciate you guys being here as usual. It's awesome. But yeah, so if we look over here, U.S. productivity is surging. U.S. labor productivity soared by an annualized 4.9% in Q3 of 2025, the strongest pace in 2 years. This follows an upwardly revised 4.1% in Q2 and making the second quarter with productivity gains above 4%. Unit labor costs, which signal how much a company pays workers to produce 1 unit of output, fell 1.9%. So again, productivity is just looking great. Unit labor costs are coming down. And we're seeing productivity increasing at strong rates, and I believe those are going to get even better. Let me read the rest of it, though. It says, this comes as many businesses are using new technology and equipment to improve worker efficiency. The combination of rising productivity and falling labor costs should ease inflationary pressure from wages while supporting economic growth. We have a bunch of stuff that shows that, again, inflation is not a concern. We've been talking about that for the last year. However, this also signals that companies can effectively grow without need to add new workers. What I actually think can happen is if you're doing it right, you're growing and adding workers, and you're creating efficiency at the same time. And as you see more and more growth in the future, you should be leaning into that, because again, these are the strongest numbers we saw since 2023. Only this time there's something real and fundamental behind them. All the things that Trump has been doing and his administration's been doing to make things better. Andre Steno Larson, so actually we got Lawrence commenting on his. It says, Fed cutting rates, restarting QE. Again, we modified the supplemental leverage ratio on January 1st. People are going to get, I think Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant said recently here, because he manages the IRS too, that they expect $150 billion coming back in people's taxes. And then those people are going to adjust their withholdings in order to be able to increase their paychecks, because the government's pushing really hard to do that. So you have all that kind of stuff. You got the QE, you got the supplemental leverage ratio, you got the Fed cutting rates, and really some of that waiting to roll into the bond market. Maybe not today with Trump talking about tariffs over the weekend and then sharing personal emails from Emmanuel Macron, but we'll talk about that. We'll get to that stuff. But I do think that we're in a strong growth phase, and again, all the growth policies, the stuff that really kicks in this year is going to be impactful, and just all the investment dollars, so much in the way of investment dollars coming in, especially in AI. What is it, $3 trillion in the next 3 years that's coming into this country from that alone. But if you look here, he said, off this comment, it says, Andre Steno Larson, the most promising Philly Fed report in more than a year. Finally, time for the U.S. cycle to shine. Again, this is before Trump's recent comments, so the market could take a hit over the short term, but ignore that. Just use it as an opportunity to buy more, in my opinion. And have a long-term vision. Again, I know people were very much into options. I was. I've lowered that substantially, a little over 20% right now in leverage across the entirety of the portfolio. If there's a big hit, it's not the end of the world for me, but I don't expect that. I expect this year to get better. But if you just look here, this impulse is a strong one. This is what? The third highest reading going back to end of 2021. So this is a big deal. And again, there was all this just reverberation, because we had manufacturing basically come to a complete halt because of the pandemic, right? And then you get this huge impulse, and then you get some gyration before it lands into, some new norms. And the end of 2022, that's when everything was falling apart again. Pandemic falling apart. Into 2022, everybody was talking about the world coming to an end again. That's when I leaned in. I made 600% in 2023 because of that. This little blip over here. And now I think we're getting ready to do things we just haven't done before, and I'm very excited about it. Geiger Capital, I wanted to talk to this real quick. It's very important to understand our receipts coming into the government and then what our outlays are. He said, one of the great political moves by the left in recent years has been convincing a large portion of America that we don't already spend most of our money on healthcare and entitlements. So this is what I wanted to speak to. We already spend the vast majority of our money on Social Security. Then comes Medicare. Then comes health. Our net interest expense is above our national defense, which was one of the highest items. But you can see here how these are becoming a massive part of our payout. And that's why we can't have fraud in Medicare. We can't have fraud in health insurance. We can't have fraud in Social Security. And we need to lower our interest rates. If you do all these things, and then again, cleaning up and some of this other stuff over here, the federal budget starts to look a lot better. Buying Cypher today, I probably am too, even though I have a lot already. I don't know. I might pick up a little more, though. Peter St. Ong, PhD, said 5.3% growth while cutting 2 million government workers and illegals is fucking insane. So this is from EJ and Tony. I really like his work as of late. Atlanta Fed latest GDP forecast is not only a blistering 5.3% for Q4, but the growth is coming almost entirely from the productive private sector, not from government. So again, you just have to remember, we've been removing illegal immigrants. We did one of the biggest terminations in government history this last year. And at the same time, we're growing at the pace that we're growing. I love this kind of shit. This is what I like to see. I like to see an economy where the rest of the world is investing in us and where we have fairer trade because of the tariffs that have been implemented. And then at the same time, we're pushing pro-growth policies across the spectrum. I love that. Again, you take all the hit in the first year, you create all the pain, even though it seems like we're drifting a little bit of that into year two. And then from then on out, you benefit from that, and you reap what you sowed. And I think that's the stage we're still at. Ignore the noise. Again, I think the market, and we might just I think we've definitely sold off into the weekend. If you look at futures, we're higher up than that. But you could see just another quick drawdown before we go up. I think that's totally possible. But I do think today is going to be a bouncy day. I really do. We have Trump talking tomorrow, guys, in Davos. He's going to be, dropping his sack all over these people. This is our Davos. The United States is prominent in Davos because we're winning. We're winning, and everybody knows it. And they can talk shit about us on social media, but in the end, we're winning. We're winning. And you can see it based on our economic data when you compare us to every major economic power on Earth right now. Japan obviously not doing great. China faking everything, but looking horrific. I got to show you guys latest data on that. I might even pull up a video. I don't know if I have good posts for that, but I might actually pull up a video of a guy I watch all the time who lives in China the majority of the time. A white dude that lives in China, but he even has become more dismayed with what's happening in China and just looking at the data. You're still bearish, BMNR? I was actually thinking about buying some today. I don't know. The Mr. Beast thing could be brilliant or it could be stupid. I know sometimes you can muddy a story when you complicate it too much. So people like simplicity, and they're like, oh, it's that thing. It's this thing. But I also think Tom Lee's brilliant. I think he's right that Ethereum looks crazy, guys. It looks really good. I know it's down, but if you just look here, the ETH BTC ratio, it looks like we're getting ready. And again, we're not there yet because today it's down quite a bit, but it looks like we're getting ready to test this thing again. And there's just a rule about support and resistance zones. When you spent all your time hitting something, and then again, we broke down, tested back here, hit that, bounced like fucking crazy off of this, right? Bounced over here, turned into a little bit of resistance for a minute, strong support, and now we're back up here. This is something where it looks like it's getting ready to break out. And ETH is going to be a multiplier to Bitcoin because it's got a smaller market cap. Bitcoin's running, 1.8, 1.9? I don't even know where Ethereum is right now. Maybe you guys can tell me. It is not high by any means. Let me look over here. Ethereum is 374 billion. Is that right? I wonder if that's right. That's off TradingView. That's not a big number. It's not a big number. Real quickly. Yeah, I do too. And again, he could be wrong about some things, but he was really right about the telecom sector and just making tons of money during the dot-com bubble and then dialing out before the bubble burst. I think he's pretty great. I think he's pretty great. He can be like me, though, overly optimistic sometimes, but I think he's pretty great, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. So, and again, I think Ethereum's going to do well. The question is just how well. You're going to start at a position in ONDS? Yeah, that's a good one, too. I think the drone companies, I don't know if it's the best drone company. It's got a lot of talk behind it right now and some big names on crypto Twitter. But I don't know. I would much rather, honestly, if in the near future here, I need to start investing in Anduril. I kind of pseudo do that with a company called Kraken that helps. They're a supplier of them, but still. Metric, price per megawatt pipeline industry. Well, putting up a bunch of stuff there, but I don't know what we're talking about, Eddie. But yeah, so I like it a lot. What do you think of I like Palantir, but it just from a technical standpoint, it looks like it's rolling over, and I'll probably get back to some of the news stuff here in a second. But it's done really well. Guys, if you made a lot of money off of Palantir, if you bought it, I sold it too early, but I told people to buy it over here, right? That was pretty good. And then I made 600% off of that. I bailed out like over here. It's fucking retarded looking back at it. And again, this is where I'm going to talk about investing a little bit, just from like a broader, basic, investment strategy type thing. Sometimes it just pays to be a holder if you've got a really great thing. And I had such tunnel vision last year with crypto, and that the timing had to be right, and that fucked up my portfolio pretty decently. Already starting to make that back, but I don't know. I think this was great, and if you were somebody that bought this and held this, that is wonderful. But this thing went from, I want to say, like $8 or $10 billion to $407 billion now, and I think they're still going to grow, but one can easily make. I mean, if they miss in earnings anytime in the future, you're fucked. And it's $407 billion. It just seems like there's better things out there that can give you a much higher return in an environment that offers, I think, a lot of asymmetric opportunity, even if you don't apply any leverage. Again, small caps, 4-year range breakout. I think this is pretty telling. We'll talk about market breadth with it in a second. Andre Steno-Larsen said that he said you need to understand this chart better in the article below. Full research out on Real Vision. I have to agree with him here. And I think what he's trying to say just quickly in this visual is that software, AI software, is going to get disrupted so heavily in the future, guys. We don't just have Elon Musk telling us that software is going to get just utterly consumed. It's a bunch of people. And what they're saying is software will soon just be in real time and the AI will generate it. It'll just create an instance of it. You won't even need like necessarily code. You could just have like, here's what I need from it. And then it will just do all of the work. It's an area where it's changing so rapidly. You're probably going to see valuations on software companies that people view as being easily disrupted get just decimated. Now, the thing I still like about Zeta is that again, they have data. They have data. And so it's not so much about the software that they offer. They can benefit from software advancements that they incorporate into their products, but it's about the fact that they have the data. Macro hard, yeah, it's all about hardware. But that's the other cool thing in here, right? Like the things that have done the best are AI hardware, HPC basket, right? That's the thing that's done the best. I think that will continue. But then at the same time, the electricity basket has been picking up dramatically over here. And I think we'll see more and more of that too. But the one thing I don't expect to do really well, for the most part, as a broader rule, is software. I don't expect software to do well. Morning all, no trading today. Hung over from that Miami game last night. Yeah, that's rough. When you get too good of a football game, that can take away from some of the fun. All right. I said the minerals are coming. Kobayashi letter put this out there. It says U.S. venture capital investment in rare earth startups is skyrocketing. VC investment in U.S. rare earth mineral startups hits a record $628.5 million in 2025. That's a 3,000% increase. As a result, U.S. startups attracted 90% of all global funding for rare earth minerals last year. 90%, guys. So just think about this. We've got this problem where we're way behind China, but now we're doing 90% of the growth in this space. This all comes as China controls 60% of global earth mining output and over 90% of refining capacity. So this is good. And again, we know Tesla is doing their lithium refining, but we're blowing it out of the water here for investment into this sector, and I think you're only going to see that increase. Still DCAing Palantir on dips slowly. Yeah, dude, if you got a really long time horizon, then I get that. Is PLTW, is that a short? Or is that a double long? I don't even know. I hate the 2X funds. I stay away from that shit a lot. Cypher market cap. Okay, just all the specs. Cool. All right, Subaru Trade put for the first time since 2024, almost 70% of the New York Stock Exchange. Now, that might not be the case today, but whatever. I think this is still holding. Their 200-day moving average. Similar historical stances of broadening breadth on the S&P, higher each time, 9 to 12 months later, with an average one-year gain of 17%. So here's what it looks like. When we do this, when we hit this crucial level, this is what it looks like. S&P's average forward returns over the next year. Look at this. As the days go on. So for the next 60 days, 2 months, maybe it's flat. After that, it starts to go higher. 100 days out, it's doing really good. So 3 months from now, that would put us in what? April, late April. It's doing really good. And then it just keeps going. So really good return potential. PLTW, round chill, 1.2x weekly dividend. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Short Walmart. Oh, wait, not that. Let's go back. I'm going to get out of that. Get out of here, sucker. Let's go back here. Rubio said President Trump's withdrawal from 66 national organizations. Oh, we talked about this last time. I think that's a good thing. Must-watch interview. Bessant lays out with unusual clarity Trump's economic agenda, running the economy hot. Tariffs will become a strategic norm. The ecosystem must be reprivatized. Growth must outrun debt, and the Fed must be overhauled. It's 100% what he was talking about. It is a great interview. I probably won't do it all right now, but I might grab some highlights in a bit. Kathy Wood on January 15th said the next 3 years could be Reganomics on steroids. This is great, guys. This is what you want to hear. You want to hear that her mentor, Art Laffer, helped create Reganomics, and you want to hear people like Kathy Wood saying that it looks like it's on steroids because she's expecting a golden age for U.S. equity market. She said, back then, early in my career, I remember how deregulation, tax cuts, and sound monetary policy and peace through strength sent the dollar soaring, which put a lid on the gold price. And so, again, that's not what's happening today. People think that Trump is a nutcase, and that's okay. He usually has, there's a method behind his madness, and I think we'll find that yet again. But I do agree with this. I think this is what's coming. And so I think gold is getting really, really toppy. If we look here, let's see how the gold to Bitcoin ratio is doing. It's on here somewhere. Yeah, there you go. So it still looks like it's finding support. This is the downward previous support, resistance line, support line, testing support again. And again, we got another cross line over here too. This looks like a good area of support. With everything I know about math, we have almost made our measured move down. We've got strong support angles here. Gold has went up a shit ton. I don't even know if it's 34 or 35 trillion right now. It's hard to keep up, but I do think it's going to come down. We got a gap here on gold. Now, it did break higher, right? So we had this rising wedge, which normally breaks down. It broke higher. But what I'm wondering is this the last major fear with Trump? Is this the last major fear? Will the left be less crazy? No, there's no fucking way. No, and we can't let Trump not win in the next 3 years. He's got to be winning so that we can have not a Democrat in office. in 3 years, because if that happens, we are utterly fucked. They are making it very clear what they're willing to do, and it's go after everybody. They've made it clear in one YouTube video. I might even show it to you. They essentially say that they're going after Elon Musk, and they're going to find reasons to imprison him and Donald Trump and everybody else. It's not a great look. So no, I don't think it gets better. I think it's probably our last time actually being a democracy if we let them win. But I'm not worried about it. But real quickly, I wanted to talk to this. So we did break higher. We still have this bearish divergence, though, pulling us down, where you have these lower highs on the RSI over the daily time frame. The weekly probably looks like that too. And we've got this gap over here in gold. I think gold's getting too heavy. A little bit of a joke there. And I think it's got to close down to this 4,600 level. If it ends up breaking down to like the 45s again, it's just this whole thing is looking heavy, and it's looking like something that wants to roll over. And eventually you just reach math, right? Like you can have $1 trillion in inflows into gold over the last 4 or 5 years that brings its market cap substantially higher. But I don't think, it comes to an end, comes to a theoretical end, unless China can, I can't say try and save, because it's not physically possible to save their economy anymore, unless the world just ends up accelerating so quickly that it helps them get out of some of their problems. And maybe that's possible, but this money will rotate over. The Bitcoin to gold ratio will come over. We'll talk about that more. I've got a bunch of other things we can look at on that. Let's keep going. Don't forget Trump's 1-year cap, 10% cap on credit card interest. Still trying to push forward with that. I think it's a good idea. I think we need to take more power away from the banks. Trump's also suing J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon. I think that's a good idea too, because I think banks are assholes. I think banks want to keep all the margin, right? They want to keep all the margin, and I think they need to do a better job with the lending they do to higher risk customers. You need to end some of them and just not do it and do secured credit cards only, or you give them better interest rates where they're not just getting completely and utterly destroyed. I think all that stuff is going to be beneficial and help. I think that we're going to find out tomorrow, guys, more about the housing plans that Trump has. So we'll get some new policy information here too in the next 24 hours. We don't have much today in regard to economic data. We have ADP employment change that comes out in 13 minutes. We'll check that. That's really it. The bill auctions, I don't really care about. Bonds are up decently today, 4.287 on the 10-year. That's a 1.42%. So what this is showing me is that both bonds are acting as, or bonds are getting sold off as gold and silver and precious metals are still being used as a flight to safety right now. And Bitcoin is not being considered that. But again, my narrative and what I strongly believe in my thesis here is that we're getting ready to have a very risk-on market, even though it might have felt that way already at the beginning of this year, because a lot of the things we own have went up a lot. I think I'm up 20% or something, maybe more, since the first. I think that's going to happen a lot more, especially with small caps. And I think we're going to go more risk-on because there's a reason to. The world is getting better. It's not getting worse. I know it might not feel that way. This is a fourth turning, guys. This is what you fucking signed up for. Multiple governments around the world are going to collapse. Communism might go away. It might become prominent. There could be Nazis running around eventually here. We don't know. It's a fourth turning. There's crazy shit that's happening. But I'm very optimistic about it right now and America's position in it. And hopefully we continue to do really well, but I'm very optimistic about it. Looking at the pre-market right now, guys, I'm just going to pull this up. So, I don't know. It's not great, but honestly, it's not that bad either. And it just doesn't feel like this is ramping up. It feels like it's slowing down and already feeling bouncy. So maybe we get like a quick drop. I don't know, but I'm not too worried about it. Fred Krueger said there's a massive amount of money that's sitting around in fixed income just starving for yield. This money isn't going to gold, the stock market, or Bitcoin. It's fundamentally leveraged on low risk. It just wants to earn a predictable spread over SOFR. Ironically, one of the consequences of mass money printing is that we get the pools of capital just seeking to sit around earning yield. It tells you that there will be infinite room to leverage into products like STRC, or again, SATA is the Strive version of that. And I agree with that. Kamal Rod, thank you for the membership, bro. I agree with that. And so I think that you will see these products. They're doing good. They're bidding up to their 100 levels or whatever, basically I should say the $1 level where they can utilize them. Nope, it's the 100 level. Sorry, my bad. I should pull this up actually. Where they can utilize them to be able to purchase more Bitcoin without diluting shareholders, because they're just promising. It's just a promise to pay a certain percentage. And if you know roughly what the CAGR of Bitcoin is going to be, this is actually the best time for Strive to be doing this. It's fucking awesome because they just acquired Simler Scientific. All that went through. Strategy bought 22,305. That's about what I was thinking. Do you guys understand how cool it is that Strategy is buying $2 billion worth of Bitcoin? What did they buy last week? It was like around 20,000 Bitcoin. So they bought over $4 billion in Bitcoin in 2 fucking weeks, or 1 week apart from each other. They're the reason there's a floor in Bitcoin. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later too. But companies like Strive, Metaplanet, MicroStrategy, some of the really good, like higher quality tier Bitcoin treasury companies are the floor. They take the pain for Bitcoin so that Bitcoin doesn't have to. They're going to change the banking world. I 100% agree with that. It's like a no-brainer. To the people that understand it, it's a no-brainer. And again, just looking at this, guys, spreads on corporate bonds globally have fallen to the lowest since 2007. Very, very low. Just crazy low. And this is good, right? You can see a crisis in your markets forming a lot of the time just by looking at corporate bond spreads, right? Look at what happened 2008, the great financial crisis. I mean, just look at this. It was way up here by the time that started to fire off. And then there was a first wave of the 2008 great financial crisis, and then there was a second wave that was just much worse, right? This is where the bottom of the stock market was when these spreads were way the fuck up here. The stock market had basically hit its bottom. And so this is what it looks like when things are going wrong, and you just don't see that. My buddy Income Sharks, he's brilliant. You should follow him. He said alt season for small caps is gaining momentum. I think that's good on U.S. economy. Let me jump over here real quick. I want to jump into AI and robotics and stuff just because that's so exciting too. OpenAI is probably fucked. They have around 30 plus lawsuits involving ChatGPT based on diverse sources. And again, there's copyright ones, there's wrongful death. ChatGPT gave answers to somebody that guided them to kill themselves. It's probably not super great since it's not maximum truth seeking and it doesn't believe human life is valuable, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know. There's so many problems with ChatGPT. Here we go. Elon Musk, this is diabolical. OpenAI's ChatGPT convinced a guy to do a murder-suicide. So he killed somebody first and then killed himself. To be safe, AI must be maximally truth-seeking and not pander to delusion. I would agree with that. It can't just suck you off. You know what I mean? It just can't. It can't constantly just tell you whatever you want to hear. It has to sometimes be honest, especially if it's going to be a tool that we use to learn. It has to be maximum truth seeking, because if it can't be honest to you about who you are and what you're asking it, you can't be guaranteed you're getting a good answer, right? It should be maximum truth seeking. Howard Lutnick, so this was on the 18th. Great to visit my home state of New York, breaking ground in upstate Trump country with Micron technology. Memory is just gonna. I would like to say that this is topped out. I don't think it's topped out at all. There's still such a demand for memory. Central New York will be the home of the mega fab, the greatest $100 billion memory semiconductor plant. It's the foundation of the $200 billion that they've dedicated towards investing in the U.S. in the next several years, with 50,000 high-tech jobs coming along with that. History Guy Scalp says, Jesse, I've been targeting S&P 6750 butterflies for 130 due to the potential government shutdown. That's approximate. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we get a big drop. I think so. Here's the thing. I don't know if today we get a big drop. We'll see. We'll see if the rhetoric dials up at Davos or if it comes down. My guess is it's going to come down. Again, Trump kind of always goes out with the ballsiest stuff first. It's not like we're dropping 100% tariffs on China. It's not like, when he originally initiated the tariffs and everybody's like, holy shit, is he putting 40% tariffs on everybody in the world, including penguins, on a fucking place where no people don't exist? What is happening? That is how Trump works. And I think we dial it back from here. Again, Durya. Who is Durya? He is a professor, biomedical engineer and scientist, immunologist, longevity and cancer immunology, all in on AI. And he's talking about how, in 4 to 5 years, everything digital will be created on the fly with AI, and SaaS apps will be replaced completely. And I do agree with that. And you got more and more people talking about it, including Elon. Is building 3 new mega fabs. So Micron's actually building 3, yet demand is exploding so hard that Micron has decided to buy a Taiwan chip fab for $1.8 billion. Meaningful DRAM wafer output not until H2 of 2027. I agree with that. I don't think, and maybe it's the first half. It's probably the second half, at least to 2027, and we don't know. I mean, we'll get a better idea from then, but there's a massive amount of memory that is needed right now, and we can't make enough of it, and that is a great problem to have. Once AI removes 100% of bureaucracy, everything will get better and life will never be the same. Bureaucracy is the main friction level that tremendously slows things down. Imagine getting responses for government permits in minutes rather than weeks or months. So this is actually Jeff Bezos talking about this, but I think he's right. And you don't get a lot of this guy's usually just on a fucking $300 million yacht. You don't get a lot of really good input from him, so I was kind of excited that he had some.
Everything is going to get better. In Miami should have a AI application that reads your building permit for a new house or a new building, and it should give you a yes or a no in 10 seconds. And if the answer is if the answer is no, it should tell you the 6 things you have to change to get a yes. And why does it take months and months and months to get a building permit? It doesn't make any sense.
You know who could use this shit? California. They could use this, but I love it. This is what we're doing now, guys. We're allowing tech companies to fix all the problems that we have, and we're telling them with great accuracy which ones we want to fix and which problems need the most attention. And we're just doing a better job at everything. And this is going to be the new norm.
Yeah, you just described a business that I would love to create.
Exactly. This is a business opportunity.
No, this is a $100 billion business, by the way.
It's a huge business. Yeah. And most of the most things, have you ever noticed with any kind of permitting process?
You could literally have just LLMs of all the bureaucracy. And you could update the databases all the time, and you could have an AI sweep over that and be able to do all of that in real time. You don't even have to create it in the future. He's right. Bureaucracy in government and in business will go away in the future, and it's such a fucking cool thing. It's such a cool thing. Guys, bottom right corner, you can see that green area, that line. Right here. You can see that green line in Bitcoin. We could wick underneath of that for a short period of time and maybe even get into the 80s. If that happens, again, I'm going to be buying stuff today. So if you're subbed to me on X, you'll see it. I'll be posting on what I'm purchasing, but I will probably be buying more today because this is the perfect day for it. It takes Canada a long time to figure out what they've made when they've made a mistake. Reminds me of Europe. So why did I post this? This is talking about, if you guys remember this, there was them banning a bunch of truck drivers that were doing a blockade. I can't remember financially what it was about. I remember PayPal talking about freezing accounts at the same time. You can see a horse trampling somebody over here, maybe shitting on them. I'm not sure. But there was all this chaos, and by freezing accounts and banning the assembly, they finally figured out that when Trudeau did this, it was a bad thing and it was against the law. And so they're capable. What I'm trying to say here, guys, is they're capable of finding the truth. They just need some guidance, right? And I think Alberta threatening to leave Canada and that getting onto the ballot at the end of this year is going to be fucking wild. And I think that's a multi-year long time frame that would take for them to create their own country, which I think we should fully support. But it might not happen. It might force the left, the crazy liberal parts of Canada, to do different things to try and prevent that from happening, because they would be utterly destroyed. We will talk about Mark Carney and communist China and the New World Order in a little bit here. But yeah, so I do, but it's fixable. It's fixable. That's the way we need to look at it. The largest hyperscalers and semi-scalers. So we went from 5 trillion in a little over 3 years to 18 trillion, and we're just getting started. I put in AI. So if you look here, here's all the big names, the semi-scalers, the hyperscalers, and you can see again how it was just such a low number at the end of 2022. And how much that's grown. And I think we're accelerating into that. I also wanted to say, so David Sachs, there were people arguing with me in this, and they're so fucking retarded. They're like, he said narrative violation. The largest AI data center uses roughly the same amount of water as 2 burger joints. There are over 200,000 fast food restaurants. So there's this whole thing. People were arguing about this and saying, no, these places use way more water. They do. But you have to realize, I think the Colossus 2 takes about 8 million gallons or something of water. But that 8 million that it takes is being recycled. Yeah, what does it say here? Blue water footprint is around 346 million gallons per year, while on average In-N-Out store, yes, burgers only, is around 147 million gallons. That's roughly 2 to 5 1. And I don't know if the equation is quite right. But I do know this. I know that these are closed systems. If you guys have ever used your computer and you see, like, you either have a fan where it's really loud with a heat sink to cool off the processor, or you have like a liquid cooled system where water flows through it, and it basically uses water to bring the temperature down, and it's more efficient that way. That's what they're doing. It's a closed system. They're not taking water and radiating it with all this heat and then just dumping the water back into the, like, there's some filtration that happens, but really these systems are mostly closed loop, and they're not consuming just tons and tons of water. That's not how it works. They don't literally, burn up all the water. So just ignore the whole water thing with data centers. I know even in my own local town, I saw some stupid woke ass fucking people with like some rainbow flag shit trying to get people to sign a petition to keep data centers from coming in here. I don't know that they're all closed systems, but yeah, I believe they are. I mean, I believe for the most part they are. Not that they don't need to pull in more water into them, but for the most part they are. Kobayashi letter, and if anybody knows more, respond in the chat. Oh, let me look at chat real quick too. What's your outlook for ASST over the next 12 months? I tell people this all the time. There is kind of a shelf, or I should say this, it's kind of a roof on ASST for this year. And what that is, you can see all this volume up over here. That's where they have these warrants that expire, I think, in about 9 to 10 months. And they were good for a year, but it's kind of like an additional payout. If it's doing really well for the stock and you're over a certain level, you can exercise these warrants and you're in the money and making money. Well, that's over here, and you can see there's a large wall within it. So I think we kind of have a cap here, unless Bitcoin really starts to break out, and then people could just end up exercising as this thing goes higher, because that's very possible. The market cap on it is less than $1 billion, which is insane. And again, it's down a lot. And we've ridden this one a few times. We rode this up, and then it went down a bunch. And then we rode this up to the $12 range, and then we got the fuck out of it. And now we're back in over here. And I think I'm in probably closer into the 120. I'm up higher as far as my average, but I do not care. I look at this as a longer hold. So I look at it as maybe being capped, but still having the potential to break out higher over this next year if Bitcoin does well, which I think is likely. But otherwise, I'm just going to probably add to this one because I like the fact that they're trying to be the reverse of BlackRock, and they want to start acquiring companies. They want to become larger. And again, they're following the same formula as MicroStrategy, but they're a fraction of the size, which means their growth rate is going to be a lot quicker. I look at it as kind of a Metaplanet opportunity. I look at Metaplanet that way too. And again, MicroStrategy I think is going to do really well. I think it's in a bottoming pattern right now too. What do you think about playing defense sector by just sitting in SHLD, a defense ETF with some RCAP for good? I don't know. I don't know enough about what they're all holding. I think the defense sector, if we're really looking at adding another $500 billion on for 2026, it's going to all do really well, right? These companies, even if they suck, are going to go up a shit ton. So, but I don't know about that particular ETF. Make Alberta great again? Fuck yeah, JT. Alberta needs to exit. You know what will be great? There'll be some liberal people that leave Alberta, but there'll also be conservative people in other parts of Canada that don't want to be destroyed, and so they'll move there. And I think the numbers that will want to move there if they're separating will be huge. But again, this is a multi-year process. Go Seahawks. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad we got that out there. But yeah, so I think this is a really good opportunity. I mean, this thing's down almost 93%. We got you out over here. Remember that, guys? When we got you out over here? And then we started to enter once this gap was down, or where was it actually? Yeah. Over here. Like right around here. Once we had this and we had this large gap in here, we were talking about getting in. And again, I've got more probably into this range. I'm probably in the 120s right about here. For my cost average. It might even be lower than that now because I've been buying along the way too. But yeah, it's around here somewhere. But I think this is a great opportunity. I think it can go a lot higher. I got to update this chart. But I just wouldn't expect it for this year. So if you're looking to make 200% this year, it could do that. But I think those warrants could also, if we can't get enough volume, I think those warrants could top it out. We start liftoff early Feb. Maybe. I hope so. Honestly, if the government shutdown turns out to be a nothing burger, I could see that being the case. Let's look real quickly. We haven't done an FS Insight for a while. Haven't gotten a lot of updates from Tom Lee. I think he's a busy guy. Plus, this market is so chaotic. It's probably better to be silent. I get it. Q4 2025 earnings reports. So far, 36 companies are reporting this week. 33 companies have reported so far, 7% of the S&P. 79% are beating estimates. Beats are just going to get better. Companies are getting more efficient. The AI narrative is a very real thing. And those that beat are beating by a median of 6%. So 79% beating, median of 6%. Great numbers to start off with. Of the 21% missing, those are missing by a median of -5. But still, 79% is beautiful. If you could keep it in the 70s, that's beautiful. Yeah, so these are great numbers. Earnings are looking good right now, guys. We could look at that. I might break that stuff down more in the future. Let me look here real quickly. How long is this video? I think I already know this. Headline noise, improving flows. Let me see here real quick. I was going to see what he's looking at. Yeah, tech ETF. He's looking at individuals too, 10-year. I might look at this later. If you guys have an interest in seeing these more too, let me know. Throw that out in the chat because I might play more of these. Again, I get them because I'm a member, but and you're not supposed to share this stuff. Tom hasn't beat me up yet, but I do every once in a while because I want to show people what they can get, and I've gotten a lot of subs. I think last I checked, like 50 people are subbed to his stuff because of me. So he usually treats me all right. Real quickly though, I don't even remember if I went over this yet. We're in greed barely, but honestly, with this morning, I wouldn't be surprised if we're down into like neutral to fear very, very quickly. I think a market reset is great. I have nothing negative to say about that. If we look at the timeline here, we were down here. We got pretty low. I mean, November, right? Extreme fear territory. So we got down to the lows. I could probably look at that with my other tool. Maybe I'll pull it up later. But we got to the lows, and we have an opportunity, I think, to go a lot higher. I think we're just getting started. And then again, we're barely out of fear in the crypto world. It's probably in fear right now, so we got a lot of room to go higher, I think. Fed watch tool. I mean, we all know that we're not getting a rate cut here in January. I think everybody gets that. I think there's a 3 to 4% probability right now. Let's see what it is. 5%. It went up. Woo. So 1 in 20 chance, guys, of getting that fixed. Dropping the rates down another 25. But we've still got a 23% chance of something by March. I think those odds will increase. Again, it just depends on how things go with the Fed. But I think there's some opportunity there to get greater control over it. It might not come until the second half, though. So just be ready for that. I don't think Powell's going to stick around. Do you think Powell's going to want to fight with fucking Trump? We already have a shadow Fed coming in. And we're going to probably get that decision, guys, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll understand who that is. Again, Elon's looking for $134 billion in damages from OpenAI. I think he's going to win that lawsuit. What do you guys think? Colossus 2 was built in 122 days. What the fuck? Colossus 2 supercomputer for Grok is now operational. This is fucking crazy. I just want to look at this with you guys, okay? So this is just the build-out schedule for Anthropic, OpenAI, and XAI. There's others, right? But these are the big dogs. And this is just nuts to look at. So right now, this is with Colossus 2 in its final stage. I believe that's by June deployment. They'll be up here. And so for a month plus, I mean, honestly, they're already ahead of everybody now. Like, even with what they did, they're here, right? They're right here right now with this change. They're right here. So they have more compute than anybody else by far right now. And that number, I mean, look at that. These guys aren't even coming close to catching up. They're just not going to be catching up. They're never going to catch up again. And I think that's notable. Andre Steno-Larsen said this. So this is the term AI bubble. So what he was saying in here is the term, everybody worrying about an AI bubble topped out sometime in like November, December. And so now people don't care anymore. And they're starting to realize what we've already known, which is that there is no AI bubble. Or if there is one, we're like at 5%. And there's a lot of room left. Shay said, holy moly, TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, just said it expects the next 3 years of CapEx to be significantly higher than the last 3 years of $100 billion. So again, and they're where are they building? It's here in the United States. I think that's cool, personally. That's just me. All right, real quickly, let's go to Bitcoin. And so in here, Kaleo, Crypto Kaleo, says, if silver, widely considered one of the most boring assets for years, can pump 150% in a few months. It's up over 450 now, I think, guys. Let's look at silver. I don't know. It's around here somewhere. It's up like 450% right now. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's gold. Let me see. Silver. And again, boring asset, but that doesn't matter. People are very excited, and everybody's flowing into it, and that's all it takes. 440 since the lows in 2022. So you could have bought silver and got successful tech, small cap vibes off of silver. And so, again, what he's reiterating in here is that if it can do that, imagine what Bitcoin will do once it starts moving again, because we got the gold to Bitcoin and silver to Bitcoin ratios that just show the metals have been kicking its ass. What happens when that changes and everybody gets excited about the world? I do believe somebody said that gold is for like the world falling apart and you not believing in hope of the government or any government at all, right? But Bitcoin is about freedom and hope. It's not a good reserve asset for an apocalypse. It is what you have if you believe that money printing is insane, but you are hopeful for the future of humanity, you buy Bitcoin. If you think that the apocalypse isn't coming, you buy Bitcoin, because everybody is already in the metals trade. Everybody is. You can't push the market cap a lot higher than what it is. So I think there's two answers. There's the people, again, that think that the world falls apart and it's irreparable, and that the worst of economic times are coming. If you're in that camp, then you're still with gold, even right now at these incredibly highly valued levels. I think that's a bad bet. I think the bet should be that the money printers still go burr, but that AI, robotics, autonomy, genomics, all these tech sectors that are just feeding off of each other, solving problems all the fucking time. OpenAI just solved another fucking problem like this week with some medical related thing, I think. We're going to advance at such a crazy rate. I don't think people understand it. I have some good charts I hopefully can show you here in regard to it. But yeah, the metals are capped. If you're hopeful for the world, you need to be investing in Bitcoin right now because it's going to be awesome. Eleanor Terrett tried to, or for some reason was portraying it like the White House was getting ready to kill this crypto market structure bill. Brian Armstrong corrected that and said, in general, I love your posts, but this isn't accurate. He said the White House has been super constructive here. They did ask us to see if we can go figure out a deal with the banks, which we're currently working on. Brian Armstrong is the new Jamie Dimon, just to be clear. It's a combination of him and Anthony Noto with SoFi and Vlad Tenev with Hood. It's like the three of them combined. Actually, we've been cooking up some good ideas on how we can help the community banks, specifically in this bill, since that's what this is about, the community banks, right? More coming soon. So he said that as a dig to the big banks, because the big banks are like, you're going to destroy all the small banks. Not that they're talking their book. Not that they're like, dude, we want to keep our high fees for all this shit. And there's no way that you can just come in and ruin that for us. Trump's already ruining it for the credit cards now. He's talking about you're not going to fucking ruin it on the money that we get to pocket from all these fees. And so he's mocking them and saying, since this is just about the community banks, the small guys that we want to save, right? Because there's a lot of value in having community banks that know their local communities, know which kind of loans are in demand, and know which companies are worthy of them. They can just do a lot better of a job than some AI analytics thing. I think sometimes you need that human override. And so community banks, I think, are very much needed. And they're a buffer zone. Like the more banks you can have some fail and have it not be as big of a deal, right? So it's a buffer zone for the Fed too, and the Treasury. But I think that I think they're still working on this. I think Brian Armstrong is going to be very, very important in the future. We've already talked about MicroStrategy and why it's great that they have their STRC product and many others. Chad put this out there. He said, this is crazy to look at. The catch-up is going to be insane. And so he was looking here just at the difference in what global liquidity is doing versus what gold and silver have done versus where Bitcoin is. And so again, I think it's that turnaround where people aren't totally depressed about the world and instead are a little bit optimistic that matters. Hey, we got Scott Bessant talking. One sec here, guys. I want to go back to this. I just want to see. Nope, that's there. Join live. No. Where is it? Damn it. All right, there's Maria. I got to see here. I got Scott Bessant sitting above me here. Why is Scott Bessant above me? Did he already talk? Let's see here. Maybe he's on the other channel? Give me one sec, guys. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to figure out, is that Fox Business? Yeah, it says Fox Business. Oh, I didn't grab the channel, though. Let me do this. I got to go to live. This is weird sometimes. Well, no, I still don't know. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. I got to hear this. This is in Davos. Got to hear this. One sec here, guys. Oh, here we go. Let's get some volume here.
Easiest if everybody just moves down one? No, okay.
Can't miss Scott Bessant, right? Can't miss Scott Bessant.
Okay.
Here we go.
Where you go when you dream
Oh, no, come
should
on.
feel extraordinary.
Yeah,
Only.
okay.
The tone of conversation,
Here we
even
go.
before he has arrived, by threatening tariffs on our European allies until they support his plans to acquire Greenland. How do you justify taking over a country when, in fact, Denmark and Greenland have said they are not interested?
Oh, thanks,
Well,
Victor.
Maria, I think the president has a very strong view on Western Hemisphere security and believes that the U.S. should not outsource our national security. He believes that Greenland is essential for the Golden Dome missile shield. And he also, the president, as usual, it's the move after the move that as part of NATO, I think the president is worried that if there were an incursion into Greenland, the U.S. would be called upon to defend Greenland. Greenland's becoming more and more attractive for foreign conquest, and he very strongly believes that it must be part of the United States to prevent a conflict rather than getting the U.S. engaged ex post into a hot conflict.
So Greenland is not expected to be able to have the capacity to stop any potential missiles that could hit the United States. In other words, Greenland without U.S. ownership makes the United States vulnerable. Is that the president's main complaint?
Well, I think it's that, and that the U.S., there's the opportunity for the U.S. to become embroiled ex post into a kinetic war if another country moved in on Greenland, and no country is going to assert control of Greenland if the U.S. controls Greenland.
Secretary, what do you want to say about the response
so
here? I mean, the
articulate.
European Union is pushing back, saying we are not going to complete
Does the
our
left
trade
even
deal
talk about
with the
Scott
United
Bessant?
States.
Does the left even talk about Scott Bessant? It's just a weird thing for them because he's a gay man in the highest position that a gay man has ever been in. So I never hear them talk about him. I don't know what their view is.
Because of this, they have already called an emergency summit for later on in the week about this Greenland situation.
Well, I would say exactly what I said after Liberation Day last April, when the president imposed tariff levels on the whole world. I tell everyone, sit back, take a deep breath, do not retaliate. Do not retaliate.
That's pretty clear.
The president will be here
It's a pretty clear message.
tomorrow, and he will get his message across. I believe he is going to have meetings.
Do not retaliate.
And again,
Do not.
also have an open mind. That, why this rapid response in terms of, this is a no. And by the way, Maria, this has been in the minds of American presidents for more than 150 years.
Yeah.
For more than 150 years.
He's the fourth president.
But
like
the
the sixth
vulnerability
time.
was seen even back then.
Well, or the strategic value of Greenland. And I think as they're more
By the way, Macron, he actually had last week, he had more government meetings where he had sunglasses on, I believe, because he had been beat up by his wife, husband, parent. I don't even fucking know anymore.
trade routes that move near Greenland, Greenland becomes more and more valuable.
Secretary, we're already seeing a reaction from markets. You've got rates spiking in the United States, up 7 basis points on the 10-year right now. You've got rates spiking in Japan. What do you want to say about this market reaction that we're seeing?
Well, Maria, I think it's very difficult to disaggregate the market reaction from what's going on endogenously in Japan. So Japan, over the past 2 days, has had a 6 standard deviation move in their bond market. That would be what has happened in the Japanese JGB 10-year would be the equivalent of a 50 basis point move in U.S. 10. So I think it's very difficult to disaggregate what the spillover from Japan is.
Ask him more about that.
I've been in touch with my economic counterparts in Japan, and I am sure that they will begin saying the things that will calm the market down.
So what are the plans for tariffs on Europe then?
Well, we're in the midst of completing a very good trade deal for both sides. So the plan is to go ahead with the trade deal. Of course, the president has said that he, on February 1st, will implement a 10% tariff if the Danes do not want to give up Greenland, and it is on the 8 countries that sent troops to Greenland.
So what do you want to say about the NATO alliance
love that.
then? I mean, Denmark has been a long ally.
I love that they tariffed every fucking country that symbolically put a couple of people on Greenland to show them up. I love that they gave them a 10% fucking tariff for that. And now they're pulled into this to try and solve the problem that they helped create, right? Like this chaos that they create from, I mean, don't get me wrong, Trump saying that he's going to invade Greenland probably is the person who created the chaos, but that's what he does. Their response should be smoother and cooler and quieter. If you learn anything about Trump, you don't come back firing back. And I'm glad Bessant touched on that. But I think I don't know. I think things are gonna be. It's not gonna be as bad of a week as I think people think it is.
European Union united against any move.
I mean, unless Trump does something crazy, always be prepared for that.
How do you progress with what looks like a strategic move for the United States, but also preserve the alliance, the NATO alliance?
Well, look, I think that the NATO alliance is very safe, sound, and thanks to President Trump, it's never been more secure. When President Trump came in his first term, the
so good at communicating this stuff.
European countries and Canada were not meeting their spending quotas as a percent of GDP. Now they got a lot of catch up to do. And Maria, to put it in perspective, the United States of America since 1980 has contributed $22 trillion more dollars, or spent $22 trillion more dollars on defense than all of NATO. So roughly the same size population, and we have spent $22 trillion more. That is 2/3 of our outstanding government debt. The Europeans have been spending the money on social welfare, on roads, on education.
Bessant is so great because he seems like a person who's smart. You understand that he's smart. You understand that he's probably more, again, he comes from liberal roots. He is a gay man, but he saw the problems that existed within the government and the economic systems and where we were leaning, and he didn't want to see it broken. But he's so good at articulating his message, and also without being like Trumpian, conveying the things that are broken in Europe and across the world and in our country and what we're doing to fix them. And his level of confidence and conviction is just, I mean, he's got a lot of conviction, and you know it, and it's beautiful to see. It's really great. This is one of the most brilliant people, and he is the perfect person to have in the position that he's in.
And it's time for them to pay more, which they've agreed to do.
Yeah, many of them have already stepped up, like Poland.
Everyone has except Spain.
Okay.
Look at that.
And do you not feel that a security
He just called out Spain.
deal in the Arctic would suffice?
I love it.
In terms of Greenland.
Well, I think what we're seeing. We're seeing with a base that we have shared with the UK for many years. The UK is signing the island over to Mauritius. So again, I can see why the president believes that for U.S. engagement,
getting an island too.
We do not want another Diego Garcia on our hands.
This is a very important point that you make. In terms of tariffs, how much money has been generated from tariffs already? Certainly the hysteria over President Trump's tariffs have died down since April of last year. What is the total running rate right now?
Yeah, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars, Maria. The U.S. for the fiscal year, which ends September 30th, we had a fiscal contraction. For the calendar year, we had a very large fiscal contraction. So we cut the deficit by about $200 billion. The important number is the deficit to GDP. So calendar year 2024 was 6.9%, the highest we've ever had. I mean, we inherited a mess. 6.9%, the highest we've ever had when the U.S. was not at war or not in a recession. So 6.9%, calendar year 2025, 5.4%. I have called for getting that number down to 3% by the end of
Which is
President Trump's
manageable.
term, and I think we're on the way.
So you've been using that tariff money to pay down the deficit then?
It feeds into the general account, and it's been a big part of it. And again, last year, the U.S. 10-year bond, France was up about 40 or 50, Germany was up 50 or 60. U.S. bond market had its best performing year since 2020. And again, back to your point that after Liberation Day, April, May, it's the end of the world. The world's going to sell U.S. assets. Just the opposite happened is, as Treasury Secretary, I can see who the buyers are of our bonds, and we had more foreign participation than ever.
And just to be clear, a moment ago, when I asked you about the market reaction, you don't think markets rates are spiking on this Greenland story. You think that what's happening in Japan is specific to Japan.
Well, I think that the Japan situation, that the market there, again, had a 6 standard deviation move, and that was happening before any of the Greenland news. And I think the rest of the world, German rates are up, French rates are up, Japanese rates are up a tremendous amount.
Secretary, I want to get to the macro story in a moment, but let me stay on tariffs for one more moment, because we could be hearing from the Supreme Court imminently. And of course, the Supreme Court will issue a ruling on the president's use of tariffs during a, quote, emergency, the IEEPA, reason that you've actually issued some.
I want to be clear. I think that I think the more likely scenario is that they keep kicking that can down the road. And I agree with some of the other people that I listen to, George Capital or whatever, I can't remember what his name is, that they'll kick it down the road, and that means that it's bullish for the tariffs. It means that they're not going to do anything with it. It's really going to be dependent upon Trump's policies. If Trump does a bad job with it, and if it wasn't working right now, if the economy wasn't doing well and the tariffs were in place and you could just see that it was a train wreck, I think they would have already made a decision. But I think the fact that they haven't made a decision indicates that they see the tariffs as doing well. They see the economy as doing well. And they're going to leave that the fuck alone and then make a decision. If it's clear that all of that worked perfectly, then I think what'll happen is that they'll rule the right way with it, and they won't take back any of these things because they'll realize what a powerful tool it is for a U.S. president to use and wield this power, and they wouldn't want to take it away from him. But if he fails miserably at it, they will. I don't think that's going to happen.
Of these tariffs. What are your expectations for the Supreme Court? We could hear from them this morning or even tomorrow morning. If they rule against you, what are the alternatives to raise that kind of revenue, hundreds of billions of dollars that you've already been able to do?
Well, Maria, I think it's very unlikely that the Supreme Court is going to strike down a president's signature economic policy. It didn't early on with the ACA,
right.
Also known as Obamacare.
This is literally what he was voting to do.
They reinforced that recently. And the real problem here is President Trump has used IEEPA for negotiating leverage for geopolitics in emergency situations. If we look back, the first IEEPA tariffs were fentanyl tariffs. So on Mexico, on Canada, on China. And if fentanyl is not a national emergency, I don't know what was. 200,000 Americans dying every year, and because of that, Mexico came to the table, Canada came to the table, China,
they can just show how it works
exports or the precursor drugs have all come to the table, and we're seeing a substantial drop in protecting the American people. On October 8th, the Chinese government announced rare earth export controls on the entire world, not just the U.S., and which would have caused an industrial meltdown. President threatened 100% tariffs on China if they did this. My Chinese counterpart, who's been a very good interlocutor, had gone quiet for a couple of days. Chinese immediately came to the table, and they rolled the export controls out a year. And President Trump insisted that I negotiate on behalf of the whole world. So, in terms of the U.S. leading, this is what U.S. leadership looks like. He was able to use IEEPA tariffs to negotiate for the entire industrial world. So I think it's very important here.
Awesome.
I'm glad you mentioned China. I'm going to come back to China,
Bessant
but
is a
while we're
bad
here,
motherfucker.
what is the latest
He's
timetable
great, dude.
on the much anticipated bilateral trade deal with China?
I think at the World Economic Forum especially, they want to talk to somebody like this guy, somebody who seems like an aristocrat, but who's honest and can tell you straightforward like what's going to happen and is a truthful person, I think, that's trying to do the right thing.
I had a meeting with my Chinese counterpart here in Davos last night, Vice Premier Hu Feng. He told me that just this week they have completed their soybean purchases.
Nice.
And
everybody's worried about
we're
that.
looking forward to next year's 25 million tons. I suggested maybe he'd want to buy a little more, because President Trump always brings that up with Party Chair Xi when they speak. And they've done everything that they said they're going to do.
Are they having rare earth magnets flow, or are they putting restrictions on that? Because there were reports last year that the Chinese were saying, we will send the rare earths, but we're not sending them to any companies that are tied to the defense sector and the U.S. military.
They are flowing as expected. We are in a fulfillment rate that's in the 90s, which I think is quite satisfactory.
So they didn't stop, even if it's a defense company? Because I believe they tried to do that with Japan as well.
Well, Japan and China have gotten in a skirmish over some remarks that the Japanese prime minister made. So the U.S. is immune from that.
Okay, let's talk macro. The U.S. economy seems to have been doing much better than many expected. We had a 4.3% read in GDP last quarter. How would you assess the United States economy?
I think that it is very strong and likely accelerating. And Marie, just to be clear,
we are so confident
4.3% GDP was private sector GDP. So, or actually, after the fiscal contraction. So, the real number was 4.7. The government
Dude, Rubio is the guy who does all the shit, okay? He can't be the fucking president of the United States. J.D. Vance, I think, is brilliant, and I think he's really articulate, and I think he's a great politician. He is the perfect person to have in front of the American people as a president. And Marco Rubio is the guy we're going to have all the fucking memes for, because he's running everything behind the scenes. And I think that's okay. I think that's probably what he wants. And I think he's perfectly suited for it. I know people want to push Rubio into being the president, but he's the doer, man. He's the guy who gets the shit done.
Contracted by 0.4, so that got us to 0.3. So that is pure private sector GDP. And President Trump's economic policy, tax deals, trade deals, and deregulation. The deregulation, which I think is probably the most powerful part, is really just starting to kick in now. So we have the tax deal, one big beautiful bill, done on July 4th, which no one said could be done. And it contains full expensing.
If Sean, just to be clear, 15% sounds nice, but it's a cute number in reality, because Elon Musk said within 5 years, and that would be during a J.D. Vance presidency, that we could see 3-digit GDP, 100% increases year over year for gross domestic product. So that number would be cute by comparison to 100% GDP. I'm blocked on X. Is there anywhere else I can subscribe to see? I blocked you, or you're blocked? What happened, man? If I blocked you, just give me your ID and I can unblock you. Let me know.
For U.S. corporates, on equipment, for factories, for ag structures. On the other side, for working Americans, the president's signature policies: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, interest deductibility.
Did I block you?
Auto loans if you buy an American car. So we're seeing this wonderful balance between industrial America and Main Street America. I am also the IRS commissioner, and we did not change the withholding guidance. So we're going to see, as commissioner, I can see there are going to be very substantial tax refunds coming to working Americans in the first quarter. They'll change their withholding. They'll get a bump up in real incomes. Because of the expensing, we're seeing 12, 14% CapEx growth in the U.S., and historically, you have never seen a CapEx boom without seeing employment follow.
Yeah, you've got a CapEx boom and a productivity boom as well. 4.7% is much better than so many people expected last year. Are you expecting the economy to, at one point, hit 5% as well?
Well, the Atlanta Fed GDP number, which is a very noisy number, is now reading 5.3 because remember the fourth quarter GDP included the Schumer shutdown. So
that's true.
Some of that will be pushed into the first quarter. So I'm expecting that we could be well north of 3. And we'll have inflation coming down. As you said, productivity is very high, and we have measured inflation and observed inflation, and with the observed inflation, I think we can see that prices are already down, and that will trickle into the CPI and the PCE, which the Fed looks at.
Well, it's a good point, because there is still a perception that prices are still high.
Well, prices are high. The Biden administration was a wipeout for working Americans, that the price level increased by 21, 22, 23%. But our friend Jason Trennard, the strategist, has something called the Common Man Index, and that is what do working Americans buy? So basket of groceries, insurance, rent, car payments, and that was up in the mid-30s. So very difficult, other than with energy. The president, through Drill Baby Drill, has gotten gasoline prices down. We're below $2 in many states. National average is below $3, even if you throw in the outlier of California. And so that we can get down, and we are working every day to get things down. And affordability is two pieces. Affordability is price level, but it's real incomes. Real incomes have gone up every month since President Trump took office.
I love that we're focused on fixing the K-shaped economy. It's such a fucking beautiful thing. It's what we have to do. We have to raise up everybody, or we're going to have riots in the street and have these losers running around like we do right now.
And as I said, I think we're going to see a big year for real incomes this year.
Wow. And you said in terms of the tax refunds, are we talking about thousands of dollars that people will be getting as a result?
We could see for working families, for each wage earner, we could see up to $1,000 per wage earner.
Okay. You said that prices are still coming down, but they're still elevated. The president announced many things, a litany of things, just in the last 100 days. And I want you to walk through some of these things and tell us why they're important, because he put a ban on large institutional investors purchasing single-family homes. He asked for $200 billion purchases of mortgage-backed securities, and he put on a proposal for a 10% cap on credit card interest rates. We know credit card interest rates are always soaring, up to 28, 30% in some cases. That's going to cut into earnings
Sorry to interrupt this, but I was just thinking about how CNBC didn't get this interview, and so everybody that follows CNBC are missing this right now. Fox Business got it. I think that's smart. I think you want to pull more people from a liberal media business source and investment source over to one that isn't. I think that's smart. They're doing this very well planned.
Of the bank, certainly. And he also teased something about 401ks, that you would be able to tap into your 401k to then buy a home. Walk us through these things. Why are these so key, in your view, to growth and to reining in prices?
Well, here, why don't we start from the beginning? So,
the first thing was the ban on large institutional investors purchasing single-family homes and the purchase of mortgage-backed securities.
Yep. So the ban on institutional investors in single-family homes, for those of you who are not American, in the U.S., pre-Great Financial Crisis, institutional investors did not participate in the single-family market. So post the financial crisis, institutional investors hoovered up single-family homes. They continue to do it, and there's an unfair tax arbitrage there.
I've got a
you and
realtor
I
friend that
have a
uses
mortgage. We can deduct
thinking about it
the
too.
mortgage amount. Institutional investors can deduct the borrowing amount, but they can also expense any repairs and depreciation. So
Wow.
we think that it is a good idea to have them out of the market. We are going to give guidance at some point to see what is a mom and pop that someone, maybe your parents for their retirement have bought 5, 10, 12 homes. So we don't want to push the mom and pops out. We just want to push everyone else out. And what's important here, you will hear some misinformation that says, well, institutional investors are 1, 2, 3%. That is true. Having been in markets for 35 or 40 years, markets are made on the margin, and institutional investors are much higher in boomtown markets like Charlotte, like Atlanta, like Huntsville, Alabama.
Increasing prices a lot in
They've
boomtowns.
done that. In terms of having Fannie and
That makes
Freddie
sense.
buy MBS, the mortgages are two parts. It is the 10-year bond yield, and
How great is it that we get to listen to him and he just tells us everything?
it is the spread between mortgages and the 10-year yield. So the purpose of that is to narrow the spread.
Okay.
Yield curve
The
control.
cap on credit card
Yield
rates
curve
is expected to
control.
cut
We just don't
into
like that
bank
word.
earnings between 5 and 18%. Your reaction?
We've done a lot
Yeah,
this
we're
year.
going to. There's going to be a lot of
bank
that,
stocks
Sean.
are at a new
This
high.
is the year of winning. Trump knew, I said this last year, that you take all the pain right away because you need to win the midterms, right? You take all the pain right away so that year 2 can be better, and you try and optimize it where the second half of that year, maybe June, July, you're starting to fire on all cylinders economically. You've done all the hard work. You've liberated countries around the world. You've got people investing in the United States, and even though other countries around the world, there might be people that do not like the United States and they think we're fascist and whatever other shit they're talking about, we're crushing it, and they know we're fucking crushing it. And the money flows. The money does not give a fuck about politics. If they think that we're winning and they see that we're winning, that's where the money goes. That's how you hedge, right? And I think that's us.
That through my position on FSOC, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, and the 3 bank regulators, the Federal Reserve, the OCC, the FDIC,
Oh, God, I can
we have
totally
done
see
a
that,
lot
Sean.
to deregulate banks. Their earnings are way up. More importantly, it has increased their lending capacity. Oliver Wyman's numbers, not mine, estimates that there's $2.5 trillion of extra lending capacity. The other thing that has been a focus of this administration and a focus of mine is small and community banks, because what happened after the great financial crisis, all the regulations from Dodd-Frank, we had too big to fail, but then with small banks, you were too small to succeed. This regulatory morass, we have lost more than 50% of the small and community banks, and they power small business lending, real estate lending, and ag lending. So we are trying to bring that back.
Yeah, it's a great point, because farmers really need the lending of these small community banks. Look, Secretary, I want to get your take overall on your thoughts on what you've done so far, because
Sorry
the
we're sitting on
president
this so
back
long. This is just too
last
good
year,
not
right
to-
after the
not to
inauguration,
watch.
I sat down with the president and I asked him what he wants the economy to look like in 4 years when he's done. And he was very clear. He said he wants private enterprise to rule the day. 1 year later, you've taken a 10%
thanks,
stake
Clayton,
in
for signing
Intel.
up.
You've taken a stake in MP. Now, I know that these are national security issues. And the other day, the president told the defense contractors, don't pay dividends, don't buy back any
I
of
think
your
that's
stock.
great.
You need to be fulfilling what the country needs in terms of producing weapons. So what do you want to say to people who say, look, here is a so-called capitalist president and a Treasury Secretary, and yet it's not private enterprise running things. The president is telling the defense contractors what to do, and you've taken stakes in these companies.
Bessant is in an
Couple things,
interview on
Maria.
CNBC
I think
now,
the
right
only
after
good
this.
thing that came from COVID was it was a test run for what would happen if our supply chains were ever broken due to a kinetic war.
Me too.
So we saw that there are 5, 6, 7 key industries that we have to reshore. So everything you just said, rare earth magnets, we've got to get out from under China's grasp.
And we're seeing record
semiconductors. I would say that the single
3,000% increase.
biggest threat to the world economy, the single biggest point of
the
single
growth of the
failure
earth for the
is
VC,
that
for minerals.
97% of the high-end chips are made in Taiwan.
Yep.
If that island were blockaded, that capacity were destroyed, it would be an economic apocalypse. So we are reshoring the semiconductor industry to the U.S. With the defense contractors are no different than the systemically important banks. They exist, like the systemically important banks exist because of the backstop from the Fed, because of the regulations, and these defense contractors have let down the American people. They have let down the American people.
I love that he's saying that. What he's talking about, traditional defense contractors are fucking trash. They just collect a paycheck and try and figure out how much they can fucking charge the government. They're not trying to actually build cool shit that's reproducible, that in a time of war is useful and produced like anywhere, any of our manufacturing places that could be converted into a place that could build the weapon systems or whatever we need. No, they build expensive shit that we don't want to use.
Are 5, 6, 7 years behind on fulfillment of their contracts, and they exist because of the U.S. Department of War. So I do not think it is unreasonable to tell them that until further notice, you need to build more factories and buy back less stock. And by the way, Maria, these CEOs making $30, $50 million a year for failing the American people. So I don't see any discrepancy.
Yeah, they're going to give them some massive fucking incentives to start doing their job.
There, and it's, as you said, everything on your list is
show
national
me the incentive,
defense.
I'll show you the outcome.
So once they get to some
Andrew's
normalized level of backlog, I don't know whether it's 2 years, 3 years, then we can talk about removing those restrictions.
So what you're saying is you want
Love it.
private
So
enterprise to
clear.
lead the day, but when it comes to national security, the government will be a shareholder.
And again, a lot of this isn't private. You know, we have seen what happens when the free markets get kind of perverted, because what happens with critical minerals, that several companies have tried to stand up critical minerals facilities in the U.S., and the Chinese come, lower price, undercut them, and then they're bankrupt. So we have to, we are going to put in a system, price floor, price ceilings, and when you talk about multilateralism and the U.S. leading, I just hosted at Treasury last Monday the G7++, so G7 plus Australia, plus India, plus Mexico, plus South Korea, and we are working at warp speed to create a critical minerals block where we can mine, process, and refine critical minerals, and China won't have this sword over our heads.
So how long do you think it will be until the United States is, in fact, independent in terms of the refinement of these minerals, independent in terms of oil, et cetera? I mean, I know that the U.S. could be is the largest producer anyway, but do you expect this year, next year, what's your timetable in terms of the U.S. not relying on China for these things?
Well, obviously for energy, we are independent. We're an energy superpower, and I would say 18 to 24 months. I went down about 2 months ago to my home state of South Carolina, and in South Carolina, for the first time in 25 years, there's a producer there who made
awesome.
rare earth magnets. So they are starting to come off.
We have a
supply
lot of
chain.
in the US.
They believe that within.
Sorry, real quickly on that note, when you create incentives for people to be able to profit and then also be successful based upon their hard work and talent and what they're able to produce, you have amazing outcomes. When you pervert incentives and prevent the best of the best from being able to rise because of Democratic politicians that talk about suing Elon Musk or putting him in prison if they can, after Trump loses a few, or the Republicans lose office in the future. I think that's just fucking insane. And that's the kind of shit that happens in Russia and China and other, crazy dictatorship, communist, whatever environments around the world. The incentives are perverted and it causes horrible outcomes. And so we're lucky to have lucky to have Palmer and Elon, and I think, but I think that's because of the incentives.
2 years, they can fulfill most of the rare earth magnet needs for the U.S. And then we also want to help our allies because the supply chain is important.
Mm-hmm. What do you want to say about sanctions?
That is brilliant. So now we're saying, hey guys, if you want to be assured that China will not be able to hurt you in the future, you have to be a coalition that works with us. And now we've got this new, what is it? Something of peace, the League of Peace or something. I don't even know. What's it called, chat? Maybe you guys know. That Trump's trying to sign people up on. Macron said he's not going to join. I don't know, that might change. But it's going to be very interesting. There's so many so many cogs in motion right now. There's a lot of change that's coming.
Something else you've been working on, of course. What are you planning there in terms of Iran and the impact there? Do sanctions actually work? And the same question with regard to 500% secondary sanctions or tariffs on countries who purchase energy products from Russia.
Okay, so two things there. There are treasury sanctions. And if you look at a speech that I gave at the Economic Club of New York last March, I said that I believe the Iranian currency was on the verge of collapse, that if I were an Iranian citizen, I would take my money out. President Trump ordered Treasury and our OFAC division, Office of Foreign Asset Control, to put maximum pressure on Iran, and it's worked. Because in December, their economy collapsed. We saw a major bank go under. The central bank has started to print money. There is a dollar shortage. They are not able to get imports. And this is why the people took to the street. So this is economic statecraft.
And now
no
they're
shots
slaughtering
fired.
them. And now we're going to invade Iran.
Things are moving in a very positive way here. On the 500% tariffs on the buyers of Russian oil, that is a proposal that Senator Graham has in front of the Senate, and we will see whether that passes. We don't believe that President Trump needs that authority, that he can do it under IEPA, but that the Senate wants to give him that authority. And just to be...
We've been listening to Maria's one-on-one sit-down with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessant. We want to thank David Avella and Mark Tepper for joining us here on the program this morning. More from Davos tomorrow, but for now, it is Stewart and Varney and Company. Stewart, good morning.
All right, we just don't give a shit what Scott Bessant's saying. Okay, thanks, guys. No IPO plans first half of 2026. So that's what we know on that in regard to Anduril. But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity ahead. Sorry we segued there. We've got who I think Trump actually really likes her. This is the lady that would have won if the last election, if Maduro wouldn't have ended it and she didn't have to kind of self-exile out of the country to keep from dying. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump loves her. I'm sure she's going to be at least transitionary leader in the future of Venezuela. Or at least a running contender for their first election, and Trump's probably favorite, which he'll endorse. But she's talking about how they should be selling their oil and increasing Bitcoin reserves. I love this lady. There are powers that just get it, and they're all converging right now. Marty Party, my friend said, in my opinion, China started trading their remaining sovereign Bitcoin for gold on the August 11th, 2025. This also correlates with the gold price climbing from 33.23 to 4,500. I agree with this. I think I kind of said this before. I think China is thinking that you buy gold and you sell Bitcoin, and I think they were helping create downside pressure in it. And I think we are thinking the opposite. We're thinking, okay, let them pump Bitcoin, or let them pump gold, silver, and metals, and then we'll work our magic to keep them from going any higher, like increasing margin percentages and doing things that make it really hard for you to continue to hold on, especially if you're margined into these different products. And I think we're getting to points where they're going to ramp that up even more. And but I agree. I think we're going to do everything to incentivize Bitcoin and get that to do really well, especially after all these have pumped so much. Can we take a look at EOC? Yeah, sure. Real quick. We'll do that super fast. I think it still looks great. Right now it's down to right about here in pre-market, but we got a lot of volume underneath of us. We also have the 200 moving average on the daily, which is ripping up pretty hard because of this massive bounce that we've had. So again, if we expect that that their supplier, EOC Energy's supplier, is an indication of what their earnings are going to be like, I think they do really, really well. Again, I drew this down here, I think, for EOC and what the measured move would be, and it's pretty much following it right now. So we're down here. I think, though, we're probably going to close up. I would be surprised if we don't close up above 1660 something today, and at least get to that point, if not higher, and bounce back fairly quickly. But I think it looks like a beautiful chart to me. And again, this company's at like 5.66 billion. Jeff Lutz, he's probably one of the main reasons I'm bullish on it too. But I like the idea of, again, battery storage is huge. I love the fact that they're based out of America, and their supply chain is pretty much here. And I like the fact that they're trying to create, these stackable storage units where you can kind of expand and expand and expand, because I don't think Tesla will be able to build everything. And I can see other companies doing well in that environment. So I don't know. The chart looks pretty good to me. Just looks like a back test. I don't think it's a big deal at all. What else can we look for? All right, let's keep going. Again, just Michael Saylor talking about STRC and Zeta, talking about his competition, because again, in this race, if we're all accumulating Bitcoin, everybody benefits. So why not promote your competition? EOC's CEO presenting in Davos. Yeah, I remember that. I don't know when he presents. I don't know if you know that. Matt Schultz, again, CEO of CleanSpark, he says, "You don't say, if only." So Alex Thorne put, the two biggest megatrends in markets today are Bitcoin and AI. And I think what he's alluding to is that they do a really good job with the Bitcoin mining part. They're focused on renewables, which is still a big thing right now for a lot of people that want to get involved in that stuff, or funds that want to get involved. And then at the same time, they've got the AI HPC play, and they've got energy locked in. So I think they're a really good opportunity to go higher. Right now, they're only a $3.42 billion market cap. That seems tiny compared to the 7.43 with Cypher, which I love too. That's one of my biggest holdings. And then the $19 billion Iron, one of the bigger juggernauts. How long could the median U.S. household live on one BTC? So I just wanted to show you this. Just look, it was 50 minutes in 2012. Then it was 1.5 days in 2014. Then 4 days. Then 3 months. Then 2.2 months. Then 6 months. And then 13. And now it's 15 months. And soon it'll be like 3 years. And it just keeps going. Tech dev, we're at the point where the business cycle, where bullish div reversal momentum is decidedly building. So again, the business cycle looks like it's ramping up. It looks like we're probably going to have lower rates heading into spring. If you believe that, you believe the housing market's going to open up. You also believe that the manufacturing sector is going to start firing off for the first time in 3.5 years, just like the real estate sector. It's really hard to be bearish in an environment where you see CapEx exploding across AI and all these other categories, minerals and all this other stuff, 3,000% increase year over year on spending. These are pretty big deals. You're just going to see a lot of that. It's just all going to feed off of itself. I think ETH is a steal here. I already talked about that. George said, what's the plan for buying this dip? Think best to hit it at open or wait? Good question. I think I'm probably going to do some buying at open right away. I don't know what it's going to be, but because it's probably like the things that I'm trying to get into. If they're down a lot, I don't know. We'll just see what we end up doing. BMNR is down 7.35%. Might end up getting some exposure to that too, because that's just such a great price in my opinion. Especially if you think Ethereum is going to start taking off. But there's some other defense stuff I might look at. We'll see. But it could double dip too. But I do think at the end of the day, though, we're going to be higher. That's my guess, unless something crazy happens. Again, just remember this, guys. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is just have a longer term vision and not be really short sighted. It causes so many problems when you're short sighted. When you're day trading all the time, it sucks. If you're looking at this as a DCA opportunity, then if it goes down further, you can just buy more. And I think that's the right mindset. Again, BTC Gold here, Bitcoin performance versus it. It's just versus the RSI just going down, 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 down. Oh, all right. Donnie, bears are going to be sweating when BTC reclaims the 50-week moving average. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there, and I think we're ready to go higher. And I do think that people always do comparisons between different charts and time frames. This one, the time frame is actually really close on this one. And I do think you can kind of see the three different shelves, the breakdown, the overshoot, and then the potential for going back up. And I think that's what Bitcoin's going to do. And he's saying like around 101. So if we start getting above the 100,000 range and start turning that area into support, it's going to be good. And again, Ethereum, BTC looking good, real close to breaking out, depending on how you're drawing this line, real close. Finding support on the Bitcoin to gold ratio, I think that's going to happen today. I think Bitcoin is likely to bounce. I don't know how quickly it does it. I think this might be the bottom. I mean, it sounds weird, 90,769. But if that trend line holds, the green one in the bottom right corner, if that trend line holds, you can see it actually, you can't see it really on here, but right here is a line. And then there's more, and then there's more throughout here, and then we're near it now. If that holds, that's a good place to hold and then bounce off of and then have a continuation higher. I think we could expect that if we heard some kind of joint statement or anything positive coming out of Davos. Maybe that takes a few days. Maybe we end up seeing negative shit though. And we're down for a few days. You never know. Oh, let's keep going here. I don't want to talk about that. Again, there's just a lot of money that's going to be coming into Bitcoin. I think that's pretty self-evident. I hope people understand that. Oh, let me see what else we got here. President's going to be talking tomorrow for sure. I can only imagine how rough that's going to be. In Portland, we have 2 police officers that got shot, evidently. 2 police officers in Northeast Portland as leftists and Antifa rioters occupied the ICE facility in South Portland. The officer's condition has not been confirmed. So, I don't know. Antifa's shooting not ICE agents, but the police officers. So, thank you guys for taking the bullet, I guess. Milk Road Macro said Trump has agreed to meet with various parties to discuss the Greenland situation. I should have probably started with that too. So, various parties have agreed to talk about this at Davos. So Trump said a lot of things. So with Macron, he published his communication with him. Let me see if nope, that's that one. He published his communication with him, and so they were fighting back and forth. Let me see right up here. Yeah. So let me see if it's in here. So this is literally Macron reaching out to the president. Oh, no, this is with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General. Which one is this? What you accomplished in Syria is incredible. Greenland, can't wait to see you, Mark. Okay, so that's a different one. There's another one, though, with Macron where he basically post what he had said in a private message. And I think the reason you do that is just to show a complete lack of respect for that person, which I think is the goal on that one. And then Macron said that he wasn't going to join the Board of Peace and yada, yada. And he was pissed about the Denmark thing. And so Trump said, hey, we'll just impose 200% tariff on French wine and champagne. And he's just being a dick. Trump is being a dick, but he can be. Let's see here. Danielle, hey, Jesse, what do you think of the critical mineral sector? I don't know enough about it to know which parts are going to be the best. I can't predict that. I don't think I've done enough research. I don't know. Has Jordy Visser done enough, guys? Do you know? Has he done enough to really be able to speak well to that? Because it's not really my area of expertise. I think it's all going to go up, and that's like so the base for gold and silver is probably going to be higher than what it was before. That's just how these things work. But I do think we're getting to the top. I know there was somebody was posting booze with Trump. Here's the exact opposite. Because people love Trump, and so they saw him with his family up there, and they started cheering. Don Lemon literally raided a church, and this is a conversation. So he made it sound like in another interview that he didn't know what was going on. Here he is with the people, and he makes the most racist fucking comments, basically indicating that they're going to this church because they're white Christians. And so they're attacking this church, of which there's laws against this. There's a KKK Act, which is hilarious. If they charge Don Lemon, a black gay man, with a KKK Act for an incident that occurred on Martin Luther King Day, I will laugh my fucking ass off. The irony there will be so significant. But you got to hear this. Just listen to this. This is insane. This is so fucking racist. I don't know how we've gotten to this point where this is okay.
They're getting the operation together again. This is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold here on the Don Lemon Show.
They're going to go harass a white church that mostly white people who are Christian because of that, because they think they're racist and all this other stuff. On private property, they're going to refuse to leave, and they're going to terrorize people where they have children fucking crying. But listen to what else he has to say.
There are for this reason, it may look like MAGA coded, but there's a reason they have so many.
What does MAGA coded mean? It means white people. There's a reason we have a bunch of white people here. Let's listen why.
White people here, I'm just going to be honest, it's because of the operation that they're doing today. It's important to have allies, as they said, white allies here.
Why is it always about race?
So that is what I could say. I turned our camera off of them because they're giving some critical information here. But there we go. Everybody's ready to go.
So he literally planned this out with these fucking people and went here and then harassed a bunch of fucking people at the church, and it was ridiculous. You guys can watch the video. It's fucking stupid. But what's worse, the mayor of Seattle, first off, listen to this dumb bitch. She is the weakest, most pathetic fucking person I've ever heard speaking. And let's listen to her on how she basically wants people to commit fraud and is inviting Somalis to come to her city to commit fraud because she will not investigate it.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be explained why it's problematic to have random people showing up to daycares. Yeah, I mean, I think the fear in the Somali community is real. The fear in immigrant communities are real, so we're taking that very seriously.
Along those lines, have you asked anyone to follow up on the fraud claims, either to the Department of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs or SPD?
No. She doesn't care about fraud. She doesn't care about where your money's going, and she's not gonna research it at all.
So there's, as far as you're concerned right now, there's no reason to suggest there's any sort of fraud.
This whole issue is not really about fraud, right? It's about dividing and conquering. It's about making an immigrant community a target, right?
No, you dumb bitch. It's about fraud. It's not our fault that in Minneapolis, like 80% of the fucking fraud that's been found was Somalian. That's not our fault. That's just the math. There's nothing racist about that. What's fucking racist is to say that white people should be attacked at a church because they're white and Christian. That is fucking racist. That is against the law. Finding fraud and then having it maybe turn out in Seattle too, where it's a certain demographic of people. I don't know, but that will be output. That will be truth. But she doesn't care about that, and she doesn't want anybody to get a bad impression about Somalians and their community because they want to get their votes. Tyler, Nate Morris is one of the rare candidates to get excited about this cycle. Elect him and end the McConnell gravy train in Kentucky and D.C. Elect Andy Biggs in Arizona. Shift the GOP. Important stuff. These were two of Charlie's most important and only endorsements. So we got Elon Musk helping with that. He is putting out money and trying to assist in whatever way he can with helping political candidates this time around, which is great. Stephen Miller drops a truth bomb. Yeah, let's listen real quick. He's great. I love listening to this guy.
What Democrats are doing is vote harvesting, fraud harvesting, ballot harvesting, crime harvesting. Ask yourself, why would Waltz sanction such egregious violence against ICE officers? Because they understand that this scheme, this mass migration scheme, is the heart of the Democratic Party's political power. It is their plan for power today and long into the future. So they know that if this administration of President Trump is successful in reversing this invasion, it will deal a generational blow to Democrat political power.
Well, before I
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's exactly what's going to happen. Also, one thing I wanted to talk about, and I do actually have to go in a little bit around market open, so you might want to jump over to Amit's show. But Eric Doherty here, he said, House Republicans are pushing to pass a second MAGA reconciliation bill that only requires the 51 votes. So you need to worry about the filibuster for regular business within the House and Senate. But with this reconciliation bill, you only need 51 in the Senate. And then again, VP counts as one of those. So we can actually get it to where potentially we can ban illegals from getting a dime from taxpayers, codifying more of Trump's executive orders, eliminating $1.6 trillion in waste fraud. There's a bunch of stuff they're trying to do that see if they can push through in order to be able to get it to where we're locking in more wins. And so if we can get a second reconciliation bill, I'm doing research on this to see if it's possible. Market opened up, by the way. Let me see how we're sitting here. Tesla down 2%. Not bad. Zeta down 3%. Cypher down 5.82, CleanSpark down 5.61, BMNR down 7. Again, I don't think it's going to be down for long, guys. I got some buy-in to do. I will post about it. Otherwise, you guys have a great morning, and say hi to Amit for me, and I will talk to you guys next week and see you online.